webcast today. We share leadership training that builds trust, interdependence, genuineness, empathy, risk, and success in the workplace. Here's our host, Diane Crampton.
Good morning or afternoon, if that's the case, and welcome everyone. Take a moment and say hi to me in chat so I know who is here while everyone is still tuning in. Well, welcome. So good to see you here today. Okay, today I'm talking about using collaboration to strengthen your teams. And I'm breaking our conversation into these three topics: behavior, competition, and community. And we are covering behavior today, and I will cover competition next week and community the week following. So, and the reason for that is I really want to open time for us to have some discussion and do a little bit of problem solving. Hi, Callie, I see you there. Good to see you. Behavior is what builds community, and internal competition is a specific behavior that will cause problems that are very easy to avoid. And you can also book a meeting with me using this link. And I've put links into the chat for you, and I put it in caps, and it says, resources from today's event. So do look for those. And those links are there for your information about our summer leadership course for you in chat too. What I want to open, then I want to open the conversation to your questions and discussions. So one of the best ways to ask a question is in chat with your name, so that I know who to congratulate. But if you're shy, that's okay too. Are you ready? Give me a thumbs up. Okay, let's get going. Early on in my career, I wanted to know what makes a work group very high functioning. And I studied all the research at that time in effective group process in the fields of education, psychology, and business. And out of this huge amount of reading, 6 universal principles emerged that were repeated in all 3 disciplines. They are trust, interdependence, genuineness, empathy, risk resolution, and success. They form the acronym TIGERS. Twice vetted for validity, these TIGERS 6 principles apply to every human being on our planet when they are anchored by behaviors that improve how people work together to achieve goals. And this can be 2 people or thousands. It can be a marriage, a STEM group of kids working on a robotic competition, middle school leadership students developing a class project to befriend kids who were bullied, or educators who facilitate class conduct contracting, very lucrative businesses and startups, and healthcare teams, community collaboratives with school to work initiatives, or in my case, post-mergers and change management. The bottom line is this: anytime 2 or more people work together to achieve something of value, they collaborate or they don't. And behavior makes or breaks how this is done and whether they work together well or give up and head in different directions. And for years, we have been taught that roles and goals are how organizations get things done. We see this a lot in command and control organizations where people with the role set the goal and employees are expected to achieve them. In more collaborative operations, the reality is that roles, goals, and relationships are how work gets done. And roles, goals, and relationships are tied together by behavior norms that make achieving something of value much easier and rewarding to accomplish. So looking at this diagram, you can see how the Tiger Six principles that are anchored by group behavior norms facilitate how roles, goals, and behavior facilitate how these three features strengthen relationships and strengthen teams. And when goals, roles, and relationships are accomplished with trustworthy, interdependent, genuine, empathetic, risk resolving, and successful behaviors, operations have the framework to get a lot done with engaged employees. More importantly, when employees are more engaged, they are also more accountable for outcomes. And as I was developing this slide and thinking about how the relationship piece is so frustrating for some managers who are still in the lineal roles and goals mindset, transforming this mindset into one that focuses on relationships and connections is a very important opportunity right now for people who like to teach and coach others. And it is top of mind for so many CEOs now. For example, one study by Forbes concluded that managers who are attentive to team well-being and relationships can reduce turnover risk by as much as 78%. That's a lot. Unfortunately, these managers are hard to find, and one reason is found in a recent Gallup study. In fact, Gallup reported that the right managers with the skills and mindset needed in the workforce today are selected less than 82% of the time. And this means that 18% of people skilled to be managers who can build connections and guide and develop employees can't fill all the demand for this crucial job role. So people who have experience teaching, guiding, and developing Gen Z and millennial people have quite a bit to share in the North American workforce. There is just a bit of skill building needed to help them connect the dots. So for those of you seeking to build your teaching, coaching, consulting, and facilitation skills to help these organizations out, or to guide organizations through change to be more collaborative, there are some good, very good numbers to track that prove your worth, value, and return on investment. So from the perspective of the three cornerstones of high performance collaborative group process, roles, goals, and relationships, the more collaborative relationship development piece has been missing big time, and why it is so hard to deal with the quiet quitting and Gen Z turnover coming from this space. Because without the collaborative relationship piece that can be taught, the talent door will keep revolving. Indeed.com did some estimate of the cost of turnover, and I quote from their report right now. It is estimated that employee turnover costs employers about 33% of an employee's annual salary to find and hire a replacement. So let's say your annual wage is $50,000 and the cost to replace you is around $16,500. And this cost comes from factors such as hiring costs, including advertising, screening, and interviewing, onboarding costs, costs of lost productivity, cost of errors made by new, inexperienced employees, training costs, costs of wages for employees or supervisors to work extra shifts, costs to conduct a background check, numbers of days that the position stays open. And that's a lot, even more for those of you with higher salaries. And I want to review what I've shared, and then I want to open this up to questions, comments, and discussion. And Dolan, my teammate, is helping me track this so no one is left out. Also, be sure to book a meeting with me using this link. And again, find that in chat too. So, in review, the Tiger Six principles are reliable predictors of team behavior. This is true either by their inclusion or omission. There are replicatable outcomes both ways. When present, they create a sense of coherency that ripples through the entire organization. They connect team members to the organization's stated mission, goals, and values while building improved coworker relationships. When collaboration and cooperating with others is the way things are done, it allows teams to achieve more with less because people help one another. When people experience more success, they also experience more fun, are more productive, form stronger commitments, and are more accountable to themselves and others. Behaviors that anchor trust, interdependence, genuineness, empathy, risk resolution, and success, and how people work together to get things done, improve collaboration and strengthen teams. And if you'd like to learn the behaviors that build strong teams and behaviors that cause predictable problems, we will be teaching them in deep detail with real-world case studies while delivering extensive resources and tools for you during our summer online instructor-led Tiger Six Principles leadership training. We are offering this course right now for a hefty discount for early enrollment through the end of the month. And I've provided a link to the flyer in chat for you. So now I want to jump into a discussion and then answer your questions too. So feel free to put a question in chat now, and let's learn from one another as well as see what's top of mind for you right now. We did have a couple of questions that came in before the event for people who knew that they could not attend today, but will be listening to this, to our event here during the playback. So I do want to address those while you're still thinking, and maybe it will also trigger some questions for you too. So the first question that came up isn't behavior difficult to change? It is for people who don't want to change, but people who understand that their effectiveness as in the behavior that they lead with their employees do have a way to change. And I really recommend a process where behavior information is actually taken into what we call learning circles. Because with learning circles, you as a manager or as a leader are able to repeat those behaviors that you want to see. And you can also coach and develop employees who are attempting to change their behavior. And I actually, for those of you who are more interested in how to advance the follow-up of training that your employees receive, if you're interested in these follow-up strategies, they really are a combination of those three principles that I studied, those three industries that I studied, which was education, psychology, and business. So the approach is educational. There's a psychological advantage of helping people through learning curves and what that means, and also the practice that comes when employees are actually practicing these new behaviors, because behavior is a habit. and you can change habits. And you can change habits when you're supported. In fact, there's quite a few people that do like leadership masterminds, for example, for that exact reason. So I will follow up with you after this event follows, because it to your email or to your LinkedIn profile, and I'll share with you the strategies I put into this article uh, for a leadership and education group here, an HR group here on LinkedIn, and also in their national magazine. So that is a really great question. Does anybody have a question about that question? Okay, I do see. Adele, thanks. This is a great question. There are, therefore, to apply the excellence of roles, employees, and retention, we need leaders more than management. With leadership, I think behavior can be amended. Am I right? Adele, you are correct. This is a great question. And I think that when you're applying as a manager excellence in this role, and you tie training follow-up as a leader as part of your role, so that you're actually coaching and developing employees that are in your staff, that is a leadership quality. Now, managers, when we think about managers, we think of how people are in charge of KPIs and tracking those, and um, other tasks. And actually, next week, I'm going to be talking about big differences between managers in top-down command and control organizations and managers and leaders that are in more collaborative organizations, and what those differences are. I'm going to go into that in detail, and I'm just focusing on the aspect of internal competition, right? Because in the command and control organization, where we see a lot of managers, their work role is to direct employees. And I think I mentioned earlier, when managers in command and control set the goals, their role is to set the goals, and then employees are just to follow them. That's much different in a collaborative organization, where you are taking time to develop, coach, and direct employees. But that direction is less of a habit and a skill. For example, if my building is burning and I've got a bunch of employees on staff that I need to get out of that building, I'm going to direct them to leave that building now. And I probably will be very forceful about that to save life and limb. And there's other times too when direction is necessary, but not as a habit. And in command and control organizations, that's how they work. That's how work is done, through direction, not collaboration. And I'm going to be talking a lot about that next week. So please join us then too. That was a great question, Adele. Thanks so much. I really appreciate it. Oh, and I want to add too that, when we look at competition, I see that we have one of our Tigers licensees who uses Tigers 6 principles in her business, Ali Camaletti. And maybe I should probably repost the wonderful discussion we had here on LinkedIn Live, because she builds sales teams and had some great ideas about how to use competition constructively in collaborative organizations. So Ali, thanks for being here. I should repost that for you, shouldn't I? Okay, let's see if there's another question that came in earlier. And please post your questions. If you have questions, I'd love to see them. So the question is, aren't new supervisors trained to change how they relate to the coworkers. Yes. I've been around for a long time. The tigers first came into the world at about in 1989. So uh, at that time, it was all command and control. There was very little collaboration. We were starting to see some of this collaboration happen in organizations like, um, the organizations that were in the tech industry. And I'm thinking of Hewlett Packard, for example. And they started building teams as early as 1989 and cross-functional teams to get things done. But that was not the standard. So in command and control organizations, these supervisors who did a really great job in the job that they were doing, and then elevated into leadership positions because they did a great job. One of the trainings for new supervisors was to, instead of having a critical conversation with the people that they would be supervising, instead, they were taught to kind of pull back from the relationships they had had with coworkers. The critical conversation they could have had was, I want to continue this great relationship with you. In fact, now I'm empowered to actually help you be more successful. And I'm going to give you the feedback and all the help that I can to make you more successful. The one thing I cannot do is show favoritism based on the great relationship we have so far. That was a simple conversation to have, but instead, lengthy training was developed on how to shift from employee to supervisor that actually pulled them out of those good relationships. Because remember, back then it was roles and goals. Relationships were not necessarily part of the scenario. And as a result of that, we see a lot of managers now struggling with this relationship mindset because they have years of experience with it. And that makes it difficult. So I see we have another question coming in. Anne-Marie. Anne-Marie, thanks so much. Could we consider having a team project or projects in the initial design, so after the team sessions, they practice the new behaviors and projects? Exactly. Oh, this is such a good question. This was actually the article that I put into this HR Chief Learning Officer article. Absolutely, Anne-Marie, absolutely. When you look at roles, or when you look at education, psychology, and business, right? When you have people who self-select to practice skills after that event and tie that with business goals and initiatives, that is the sweet spot. Because not only do you see change and business advantage, which your senior leaders do want to see, because they get a return on their investment, right? For sending employees into training. Then and what's so neat about collaborative organizations, Anne-Marie, is that it doesn't have to be a manager or a supervisor that leads these practice sessions. It could be an employee who has a strength in leading a group, who wants to advance their own professional development, who could possibly be in view of leaders to fill that succession leadership gap that is keeping so many CEOs awake at night right now. So your question is just spot on. When you can, and you're also developing collaboration in that piece too. The facilitation of that, actually, in this leadership course that we're teaching this summer, we actually give you the framework for leading those learning circles, is what we call them. Or affinity group, training affinity group is known in other organizations. We actually give you the tools for doing that so that those employees in collaborative organizations who are showing the strength of leading and developing employees have that opportunity to do it. And you're right, when it is tied to business goals and you're practicing those skills within that design, you've got the sweet spot of education, psychology, and business fully working for you. That was a great question. Are there any follow-up questions to that question? I will be putting that article, I will be sending you that article because it really lays it out in detail. That was a great question. Are there any other questions that you might have in regards to today? It looks like we have about 26 minutes gone. Oh, and last question to a satisfactory level. Thank you. I hope that answered your question to a very successful level. Oh, Allie, you're very thankful. You're very welcome. I am going to repost our talk that we had, since I mentioned it about how you use competition in such a structured, wonderful way within the collaborative organizations you serve. So that will be coming again with a resource that I'll be sending everyone. Maybe we can just do that as a uploadable video for people who want to see it. Oh, Anne-Marie, how did I come up with the tiger's name? It actually came from my research in education, psychology, and business. And the 6 principles that came out of all that research that were repeatable in those 3 disciplines are trust, interdependence, genuineness, empathy, risk, and success. And there was a difference between genuineness and authenticity when we did a number of our validation studies. And quite frankly, I just had words on a table, and a friend and I were looking at these words, and all of a sudden the Tigers acronym came together. And it was like, oh, well, that's easy to remember. So thank you for asking that question. We were blown away when we saw it. Oh, that's a great question. So it looks like we're getting close to the end of our time. My follow-up again for you is, encourage you to download, if you're interested in the training, that handout is in your link. A link to schedule a call. I love to hop on calls with people who have been in these programs. And I look forward to talking to you. So thank you so much for your time and attention. You have no idea how much I love sharing these ideas. And when you're asking questions back, we all from it. And thank you for being here today. So here's to your success. The other 2 workshops or conversations are in our business page at Tiger's Success Series, and sign up for it. And we shall see you next time. Here's to your success.
Thank you for attending our webcast today. At Tigers, we've helped